Welcome to Global View. Today we have an absolute pleasure to welcome Bryan Leib. Bryan Leib is a political commentator, a columnist, an advocate with a focus on U.S.-Israeli relations, anti-Semitism, and foreign policy. A prominent conservative voice, he has served as executive director of Iranian Americans for Liberty and is actively involved in various pro-Israel and Jewish advocacy organizations. Bryan has frequently appeared on national and international media to comment on the Middle Eastern geopolitics, national security, and Jewish affairs. Bryan, thank you so much for taking the time to join Global View, and welcome.
Thank you, guys. Honored to be on, and congratulations on your new show.
Thank you. Bryan, you have the pleasure and actually the privilege to profit about your expertise in the Middle East, which is a very hot area right now, geopolitically for America and generally abroad. With the President Trump return to office, how do you foresee the U.S. reshaping its foreign policy, in particular concerning NATO and its stance on global conflicts like Ukraine and Israel?
Yeah, well, I think it's very simple. It's America first. For far too long, we've seen American diplomacy really kowtowing to the needs of all these other countries around the world instead of putting the American people and the American interests at the forefront. And I think that's what President Trump has brought back to the table very quickly. And we've seen, with Secretary Marco Rubio, who have said many times now that, when we're looking at whether it's foreign aid, whether it's partnerships around the world, we need to be asking ourselves the questions of, does this make America safe? Does this benefit the American people in any way, shape, or form? And if it doesn't check those boxes, then we're probably not going to continue moving forward on the world stage in those international relationships, which I think honestly is long overdue. I mean, we all saw the enormous amount of waste and fraud and corruption from USAID. And that's just one small arm of the federal government. So, I mean, there's just an enormous amount of waste and money that we send around the world that really is not benefiting us, the American people, or protecting or strengthening our relationships with our key allies throughout the world. So I think having President Trump back for another bite at the apple is it's a breath of fresh air for all of us as the American people, because we know that we have a president that is going to engage in diplomacy on the world stage from an America first perspective. And just final point, a lot of people like to say that America first is like this isolationist type mentality. That's not true. America first is not isolationist, but it's very simple that we have to take care of the needs, wants, and desires of the American people and our interests before we start even thinking about, helping the world. So we're going to put America first. We see President Trump doing that, and then we're also going to engage strategically with our allies around the world when it makes sense and when it's a two-way street. The days of America getting ripped off on the world stage are over.
Very well said, Bryan. Bryan, Secretary of State Marco Rubio's first foreign policy trip wasn't to the Middle East or the European continent or even Asia. It was to Latin America. You've also seen this, this heated contention between the United States and our traditional European allies. So given these two very interesting shapes and movements from the Trump administration, just 100 days into this administration, do you think U.S. foreign policy priorities have shifted under this administration from the traditional Republican or Democrat administrations, or is there something else going on?
I think it's been a major shift. I mean, George, we both know that President Trump is not a politician, and he's not a traditional kind of person in any way, shape, or form. We saw that in his career in the business sector. Now we've seen it now as him and as our commander in chief. So I think we're really looking at how can we do things differently, and instead of just rinse and repeat and do the same thing over and over and over again that we've seen so many administrations, Democrats and Republicans alike, do. We now see President Trump giving very clear mandates to every single one of our agencies that they need to cut the waste, cut the corruption, and I mean it's really it's honestly it's amazing. I mean, who could have predicted? Just an example. I mean, with regards to Latin America, who could have predicted that we would form a partnership with El Salvador, where we would be able to quickly deport illegal criminals that are here in our country right now. I mean, wow, what a novel idea. Guess who could only come up with an idea like that? Someone that spent his entire life in the business sector. There's no way a politician, again, Democrat or Republican, that could have ever have thought about outsourcing our criminals to another country. But President Trump has. So yeah, I think he takes a very unorthodox approach. And by the way, the unorthodox approach, from his first administration, and I think we're going to start to see it also happen here in the second administration, brought peace on the world stage. I mean, it brought peace, between Israel and their Arab neighbors, and God willing, potentially there's going to be some additions to the Abraham Accords as well. So yeah, I think there's a lot of things that President Trump and his team and Secretary Rubio are doing that don't fit the traditional mold that so many Washington, D.C. Insiders are used to. But that's good. That's good. I think that's good for all of us, the American people, that we don't have a rinse and repeat president in there again.
Absolutely. And you made a point that as a businessman, Trump's solutions are more deal-oriented than propaganda-oriented, what we have seen in the last years. And his victory really shaken up the world, in particular, conservative movements, even overseas, like in Italy, with Giorgia Meloni, that started off as a patriotic leader, but aligning to Trump agenda about Ukraine, and now shifting back toward a more conservative approach in line with Donald Trump. How do you think his victory is going to affect conservative movements in Europe, in particularly Hungary, Poland, and Italy? Do you think it is going to create an alliance, a sort of access of conservatism across the world?
I think so. I mean, that's a great question, and I think that there's really just an amazing opportunity right now for this new axis of conservative alliance to come together. I mean, we see who President Trump is and the type of strong conservative leader that he is. But when we start looking outside of our borders, we start looking at people like Milei in Argentina, Bukele in El Salvador, Geert Wilders in the Netherlands, Meloni in Italy, Orban in Hungary. I mean, the list goes on and on. There is such an opportunity for conservatives to really come together on the world stage, and it's really centered around putting our countries first. I was just in Hungary last week speaking at the Central European Summit, and I was sitting on stage with a Hungarian, a Serbian, a Slovakian, and a Polak or a Polak or Polish, and they asked me. They said, Bryan, what is your opinion about the tariffs and everything that's happening? And I said, guys, I'm not going to apologize for the fact that we are putting our country first. And I said, every one of your countries should be doing the exact same thing. You should be putting the interests, the people, the borders of your own country first, and then seek to partner with the United States of America and with other like-minded countries. So I think that's starting to happen. I will say in particular, and I've had, I guess, a front row seat to this over the last couple of years now. Prime Minister Orban in Hungary has really done a tremendous job, in my opinion, of creating this conservative alliance. CPAC Hungary, which is coming up at the end of next month in May, is going to bring conservative leaders from every single political party and country in Europe to Hungary. And a lot of that has to do with the leadership, again, of Prime Minister Orban. He's really formed this amazing alliance of patriotic conservatives throughout Europe that are all in lockstep in putting their countries first, fighting back against the woke and activist nonsense coming out of Brussels, which is their deep state, just like we have a deep state. So I think that there's really an amazing opportunity happening right now in Central Europe. I will say I think a lot of Europe, unfortunately, is a little too far gone. I don't know how they're going to come back. Countries like England and France, I don't know how they're going to come back. I hope they do. They're beautiful countries and beautiful culture, but it's going to be tough for them to put Genie back in the bottle. But there is an opportunity for conservatives in Europe to partner together, and I think that they're also going to find that they have a very willing and, of course, very able partner in our commander-in-chief and President Donald J. Trump.
Absolutely.
Brian, how can President Trump actually help Europe get back on track? Do you see, because, there's been, this incredible distaste for how the Europeans have really shifted away from Western values and have imported these various open agendas, various other agendas that are completely foreign to, traditional European culture. So how do you think President Trump and the Trump administration can actually help people like Prime Minister Orban and Meloni and some of these other leaders in the Netherlands that you referenced to actually help their country and to actually restore the transatlantic alliance to what it should be?
I think the first thing is really just kind of messaging and optics, right? I mean, I think for these European leaders to know that they have the support of President Trump is a very powerful thing, because he's going to embolden them, so to speak, to be putting their countries first, and we're already starting to see that in Hungary and in Italy and a lot of other countries. They know that they have a willing partner in the White House, that very much believes in countries putting their own interests first. And that's a big difference from the last 4 years with Joe Biden, and especially the last 8 years of Barack Obama. So I think these leaders around the world, they know that they have, so to speak, they have backup finally. They have the cavalry, and the United States of America, we are the most powerful country on the world stage. So when we flex our muscles, when President Trump speaks out supporting Prime Minister Meloni, who we just had at the White House, or speaks out supporting Prime Minister Orban, that sends ripples through the internal waves of those countries. So I think it's really, Georgia, it's a messaging thing, it's an optics thing, because we as the American people, our government, President Trump, we can't fix the domestic issues of a country, and nor should we, by the way. It's not our concerns. We have our own domestic issues that we need to fix. So I think all that we can do is just be a good partner, be supportive, and also understand that the same way that we in America and President Trump are fighting back against the deep state that we have in the United States, they have the exact same thing in Europe with the EU and with Brussels. Just a final note on this. I learned something about this recently. Did you guys know that the EU has absolutely no transparency, no accountability? They give grants out on a quarterly basis, but yet when countries like Hungary, who are member states of the EU, ask for the paper trail, and where did the money go? No, sorry, we don't provide accountability. It's just crazy. I mean, it's
I used to
crazy.
work for the European Union in Brussels for 7 years, and I completely, unfortunately, know this. But finally, it's coming to light to everybody to know there is no accountability. It's just a huge bureaucratic machine that feeds off the pockets of failed politicians. Most of them are failed politicians up there. So it's lots of them making the member
EU.
states go there. That's actually the joke we make in Europe. So it sounds a little disrespectful, but it has no real power, and it's really disturbing how we let erode our sovereignty over such important issues like immigration to institutions that don't really have the power even to be held accountable. So it's really disturbing.
It's the EU, from a block, to become an economic powerhouse and have buying power makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
100%. That makes a lot of sense. But what it has morphed into over the last 5, 10 years and so on, to your point, is really more of a political apparatus, a deep state. And it's really, I think it's out of control. It's really, really out of control, what's been happening. And thankfully there are leaders in Europe, like Prime Minister Orban in Hungary and Prime Minister Meloni in Italy and a couple others that are pushing back against what's happening in the EU. And I think they're going to be successful because the EU also, they can't afford to be playing games with our economy. And I think that's something that's already on the table.
Bryan, I wanted to shift to the Middle East. It's another area of your expertise. We have these really incredible negotiations that are going on behind the scenes between the Trump administration and the Iranian regime, while simultaneously the historic relationship between the United States and Israel. Where do you see these negotiations going between the United States and Iran, and how does Israel and the United States and their historic partnership fit into that equation?
Well, let me first say that I give President Trump and Ambassador Witkoff an enormous amount of credit for their willingness to engage in diplomacy with the Islamic Republic of Iran. I hope it works. I really do hope it works, and I know that the president and his team are genuine in hoping that it works. But the flip side of that is that they're not dealing with a rational actor. They're not dealing with someone that actually believes in diplomacy. The Iranians' version of diplomacy is, okay, yeah, we're gonna make a deal. No, let's wait a couple weeks. Let's wait a couple months. Okay, let's do the deal, but we're not gonna sign it for 6 months. And then no, we're not gonna sign it. I mean, it's just kind of the way that they operate. So I don't think that they're genuinely the other side, the Iranians, are interested in diplomacy with us, because our version of diplomacy is America first diplomacy that is going to tell the Iranians that they can never have a nuclear weapon. They need a nuclear weapon. They want a nuclear weapon. That's the only way that they stay relevant in the Middle East. And they know that. They know they need to have that from a power perspective. So I have a hard time believing they're going to give that up. Time will tell. But I also think that we're seeing a masterclass of diplomacy, guys, right now. President Trump, as we all know, does not want to create more wars, but we also know that President Trump is not going to hesitate if he has to use military action. Don't forget, it was President Trump that dropped a bomb on Qasem Soleimani's head, blowing him into 15,000 pieces. So President Trump knows when and how to exert American strength, peace through strength on the world stage, but he's also exhausting all avenues right now with diplomacy, which I think is very something to respect and admirable. I hope it works, but if it doesn't, I think President Trump knows what has to be done, and also I think he knows that Israel is fully capable of leading that charge. Guys, I'm not advocating for war. I'm just advocating for a genocidal regime no longer being able to terrorize the Middle East and the world. I mean, honestly, when we look at what's been happening in the Middle East, what's been happening throughout the world, all signs typically lead back to Tehran. I mean, the Houthis would be nothing, Hamas would be nothing, Hezbollah would be nothing if it were not for the material, financial, and strategic support that they've received from Tehran. So we'll see how this plays out. But I think engaging in diplomacy at this point is the right move. We'll see if it pays off. And with regards to Israel, there's a lot going on there. There's still a lot happening right now. They're still in a battle to receive or try and receive back, 50, 60, 70 hostages out of Gaza. They're still fighting against the Houthis. They're still fighting against Hezbollah. So Israel has their hands full. But similar to, I think, a previous question you asked me about, what can these European countries do to fight back? And I said, well, now they have a friend in the White House and they have a supporter in the White House. It's the same thing for I think, the Israelis. The Israelis are going from 4 years of having a president who was sanctioning Israelis in the middle of the war, who was cutting off ammunitions shipments, publicly speaking out against Netanyahu and their government, to now you have a president who says, Israel, you guys have to do what you have to do, take the gloves off and get rid of these terrorists. So I think it's a much different tone. It's a much different change from the last 4 years, and I think Israel is prepared to do what they have to do. And I'll be actually going to Israel here in a couple days to speak at a conference, and we'll be meeting with a lot of my friends in the government and nonprofits and military people as well. And it'll be interesting to hear, their perspective of how they feel with President Trump back in the White House. But I think it's a new day for our friends in Israel. They know that they have the support of us once again, and I think it's very powerful. And I think, just to add on to that, I think you're going to see Abraham Accords 2.0. I think you'll see the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia definitely officially, make peace with the Israelis, or at least have some kind of diplomatic channels. So I think that'll be exciting. So yeah, there's a lot to look forward to on the world stage, on the global view.
Exactly.
Excellent.
One last question on my side. There are a discussion about your potential appointment as ambassador to Hungary. If offered, how would you approach this role to strengthen ties between United States and Hungary?
Well, first, let me just say, I mean, I hear the rumors like you do and like everyone else does
Okay.
too. You know, there's a lot of rumors going around right now, and all I can say or really want to say is that it would be the honor of a lifetime to serve President Trump and be able to play a role in strengthening our bilateral ties between the United States of America and Hungary. Hungary is a tremendous partner of ours. They're a country of 9.5 million people that is very much punching above their weight on the world stage in a big way. And I think that we can really learn a lot from what the Hungarians are doing. And I think the Hungarians can learn a lot from what we're doing. But there's a lot of opportunity for us, our two countries, to expand on military cooperation, energy cooperation, tourism, trade, business. I mean, there's so many opportunities out there. And over the last couple of years, I guess I've kind of like unofficially been wearing a lot of these hats already, and doing what I can to help bring our two nations together and strengthen our ties. But yes, I mean, listen, if I'm asked to serve, it would be the honor of a lifetime to be able to serve President Trump, and we'll respect whatever decision he makes, but it would be a tremendous honor.
Bryan, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on Global View. Where can people follow you and keep up with your work?
Guys, thank you so much. It's been an honor to be on with you, and congratulations again on your new home. Looking forward to seeing you out on the golf course, George. And
Absolutely.
yeah, I mean, check. I'm on all those social media platforms. Twitter, I guess X. I keep saying Twitter. Everyone keeps saying Twitter. It's not normal to say follow me on X. But follow me on X. It's Bryan with a Y, Leibfl. I guess is the biggest platform I have. But I mean, I'm on everything, True Social and all the above. So, but thank you again, guys, for the opportunity and for your interest in the work that I'm doing. And wish you guys just a lot of continued success.